Hi there, my name's Ed and I'm a tea head, and I'm here to give you a quick review of the Connoisseur glass tea brewer and decanter from Mayleaf, formerly known as China Life. So I've had this bit of teaware for 2 months and I've been using it pretty extensively for my tea tasting and tea appreciation. I want to start off by saying that I'm a huge fan of Mayleaf and I'm absolutely obsessed with loose leaf tea, and this bit of kit has really helped me out with that obsession. And let's just jump right in. This is a really affordable, compact bit of teaware, and it's absolutely perfect to get you started on drinking the good stuff, the loose leaf. I mean, yeah, if you want to start drinking this tea, then absolutely get this item. But there are a few quality of life and kind of technical hitches I've had with this teaware. So what I want to just quickly do is explain how this thing works, because just from looking at it, it's not absolutely evident how it works. So the most important thing, obviously, is this little chamber here. And what you have is you have this lid with this button, and what this button does is it presses a little sort of stick, plastic stick inside here, I guess you'd call it, which presses a lever down in here, and what that does eventually is lift up a metal ball bearing, releasing tea from the bottom. And you've got a little filter here as well, a tea strainer. So that's how it works. And one final little technical thing as well is that you can actually twist this button on top to actually lock this, to lock the button. Now I'll come back to that a little bit later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start brewing some tea, and then I'll come back to you with a couple of technical hitches that you might have. So I've gone ahead and rinsed this tea, and I'm brewing the first infusion here, and this is just where a couple of problems arise. Now, because this is a double chamber, what you actually get when you brew this tea is you get quite a lot of steam inside this inside the compartment, which means that your visibility to the tea inside the brewer is a little bit off, quite inhibited. And another little thing here is when you go to smell your wet leaf, you get a face full of steam, so it makes it quite hard to discern the aroma. So obviously you don't have a lid that you can take off and smell, you just have this little kind of flap thing, so that's another little disadvantage. Now, another thing I have found with this this teaware is that the filter inside here isn't flawless, I would say. I don't think it covers the entire kind of surface on the bottom there, so a few little sort of tea particles sometimes get through, and what that has led me to do is brew tea sort of separate. So I tend to have this thing separate, the brewer compartment, and I tend to actually use a tea strainer and brew the tea like that. So I'll quickly go ahead and do that. Another little issue I've had with this brewer is that this compartment underneath actually sort of will trap tea in there, and what I'll demonstrate in a second, if I just let this tea decant, I'm hiding behind the brewer, is so you get lots of tea actually stored in this thing at the bottom. So what you have to do is you have to press the button and you have to tilt, and so you get actually quite a lot of liquid coming out the bottom there, and then you have to tilt back again. And what you'll find as well is you'll slowly have tea drain through into this bottom bit if you leave this standing. So yeah, that's not the best thing, so you're just going to have tea sitting there at the bottom. Not ideal, but that's actually much easier to deal with when you have it loose like this, when you have it kind of free, so you can twist it and manipulate it and whatever else. Just another little thing, when you have this kind of freestanding, it can be a little bit unstable. It's got kind of 3 plastic kind of legs, so I've knocked this over a few times. Not always the most safe thing, but that's generally okay. Another thing I've noticed is when you just leave this sitting on a sort of surface or a counter, that the bottom will leak quite a lot, and you'll get kind of a puddle forming slowly, of tea as you leave it there. That's also sort of okay as long as you have, you know, a towel or whatever else on hand. Now, one little thing to think about, which has caught me out a few times, if I just fill this up again, I've got to be a little bit careful here. So I'm not filling up full, just to let you know. So as I said before, this button on top here has two settings. You can actually lock it, and what that does, if I just quickly go ahead and lock this button, is when you actually put the lid down, the tea starts draining out. So I'm not actually sort of pressing it down like at all. That's gone ahead and unlocked itself. But yeah, just putting the lid down will actually drain the tea, which has led for a few interesting situations, a few mishaps, a few times getting sort of tea everywhere. So I'd be really kind of aware of making sure that this little button is free to move when you put down your lid, because obviously you want to be controlling your temperature inside your brewer. So, oh, I'm hiding behind the brewer again, but there you go. So, one little sort of final thing, which I'm not even sure would even have an effect on your kind of tea experience, really. But if you just think about this kind of compartment, the tea at the bottom is the first to be hit by the water, and it's also the last to be hit by the water as well. This thing's dripping away nicely. So what that means is that the leaves at the bottom are going to be a little bit more brewed than the ones at the top. That's particularly kind of important, well, not important, but particularly notable with oolong teas or ball rolled oolong teas, which really fill up this this chamber. But also they're a slightly more resilient leaf, so you probably wouldn't have much effect on the flavour anyway. But that's just a little consideration to think about, because when you're using a teapot or a gaiwan, the leaves that get hit by the water first are also the first to kind of breathe when you pour it away, if that makes sense. So that's just a tiny little consideration. I haven't actually done any experiments on this at all. I haven't timed how much longer the bottom takes, or the bottom would get brewed. Just something I've sort of thought about. One sort of, or a couple final things about, let's see if I just get the rest of this out. Just a couple final things is that this little container can be quite hard to empty. If you just look in here, you've got this kind of rod coming down here that you can sort of see. So tea can get trapped behind that, and this kind of bottom chamber here with the filter and everything going on down here, it can be quite hard to dislodge tea sometimes and totally clean it out. And just general sort of cleaning and keeping the kind of plastic and the glass really nice and clear and clean can be quite difficult, and it's, you know, tea stains obviously, so it can get quite dirty. And I'm not sure if you can see, I didn't clean this, I haven't cleaned this in a couple of sessions, so you can kind of see at the bottom here it's quite sort of tea stained and brown, just to give you kind of an idea of what your teaware will actually probably look like most of the time, unless you clean it kind of religiously. I think that does it. I think that is pretty much everything I've got to say about this piece of teaware. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope you understand a little bit more about what you might be buying when you buy this Connoisseur glass tea brewer and decanter from Mayleaf. Thanks very much. See you later.